Brahma.
So you please lead, no, Prabhuji.
My pranams to all Atma Jyotis, divine light of the self. I welcome all the children for today's session of storytelling. First, let's start with a prayer. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshwaraha, Sakshat,
Guru Sakshat, Parabrahma,
Mai Shri,
Shri,
Gurave Namaha.
Gurave Namaha.
Children, welcome all of you for today's storytelling session. Today you will hear wonderful story of great poet Kalidasa from Purnimaji. Have a wonderful session. So you'll enjoy the storytelling by Purnimaji. Purnimaji, over to you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hari Om and my pranams to the Atma Jyoti, the divine light of the self in all of us. So before I start about Kalidasa, I want to ask you all, what are the kind of stories you all read? You want to type it out? You type it out. I'll read it out later, okay? Who are the authors you read? What kind of books do you read? Maybe Enid Blyton or Harry Potter? No? So many things you read, no? So just type and tell me what you all read, okay? But today we are listening Mahabharata and Ramayana says Manya. Excellent Manya. But otherwise, what about light reading? What do you read for light reading? That also you tell me. All right. And you read, oh, okay. Namit is saying he reads Amar Chitra Katha. You're all very good kids. That's why you're reading all these beautiful stories. So, but otherwise, I'm sure you all read, oh yeah, Panchatantra. Sanmika reads Panchatantra, and I love to read. Oh yes, Enid Blyton, Secret Seven. Yes, we all grew up reading Enid Blyton and all these Geronimo Stilton. Okay, fine. I haven't heard of this person, but I'm sure he's very popular with the kids. So see how many Amish's Shiva. Oh, wonderful. Manya has read Amish's Shiva trilogy also. Okay, all right. So what we do now is let us go to a person we all wouldn't have read so far. Okay, this is the legend of Mahakavi Kalidasa. You know who was Mahakavi Kalidasa?
Now I can hear.
Yeah. So Mahakavi Kalidasa.
John.
Yeah.
Hello.
Shit, your video, your audio is on.
Okay. Mahakavi Kalidasa was one
Can
of
you hear me?
the most beautiful authors of Sanskrit language. Okay. And Sanskrit is called the language of the gods or the Deva Bhasha. And apart from all the authors you listed, I'm sure, yeah, like you said, Valmiki, who is the author of Ramayana, I'm sure you know him. Veda Vyasa is very popular because he has written the Mahabharata. And Adi Shankaracharya has written so many hymns and composed so many verses, on the Vedas and on the Upanishads and all. And of course, I'm sure you have heard of Patanjali, who has written the Yoga Sutras. And then there is Panini, who is the father of Sanskrit grammar. And apart from that, there are so many other names like Bhasa, Magha, Bharavi. Have you heard of these names? Kallana, Bana Bhatta, Bhartruhari, Jayadeva. See, so many names. Dandi. Had you heard of these people? These are all the great people of Sanskrit literature who have composed beautiful verses and plays and so many things. And among them all is the crowning glory of the Sanskrit literature is Kalidasa. Kalidasa, and today we are going to know a little about this wonderful person. Okay, so Kalidasa. Mahakavi Kalidasa, he was called because Maha means great, Kavi means poet. So he was a Mahakavi. He was also called Kavi Ratna Kalidasa, meaning he was the jewel among the Kavis. Okay. So he was one of the greatest poets of ancient India. Ancient means really, really ancient. Okay. He has composed not too many things, just 3 plays, 2 epics, and 2 lyrical poems. We will come to all his things later. Then, where he stayed? There is a lot of controversy on where he lived. Some people say he was in the Uttarakhand area, which is the northeast near the Himalayas, the foothill of the Himalayas. Some say he was from Benares, okay, Kashi, that is. And most historians believe that he is from Madhya Pradesh, which is like Ujjain and Marwar, which is the Madhya Pradesh area where all the wonderful kings of India ruled. Okay, so, and also there is also a legend that says that he was one of the Navaratnas in the court of King Vikramaditya. I think last week you heard the story of King Vikramaditya, no? And this Vikramaditya king was a patron of arts and culture, and he had all these beautiful artists in his court. And it's also said that Kalidasa was found in the court of King Bhoja of Dhara. So all this is a minimum information we have about Kalidasa. And because of all these, and so his timeline has been fixed between 4th century AD to 6th century AD, which is some 2000 years ago this person lived. And the most wonderful thing about these people were these artists, these writers of those olden days, they never used to write about themselves. That's why it's very difficult to know where they lived, how they lived, and all that. Their main idea was to create works of art and give it to society. That's all. They were not bothered of speaking about themselves. Now how we write, no? If we write one line, we'll put our big signature. If we do a small painting, we'll do a bigger signature. Those people were not like that. They were dedicated to their art and they didn't bother to advertise themselves. That is why we have to infer where they lived, how they lived from the works they have done. Okay. Now coming to there is one legend of Kalidasa which is very popular, and it originates in Kashi. Kashi means Banaras or Varanasi. There was this king called Bhima Shukla who was ruling in Kashi. Okay. And he had a very beautiful daughter called Princess Vasanti. And this Princess Vasanti was not just beautiful, she was also brilliant. She was a scholar. And because she was a scholar, she said, I am not going to marry any Aira Gaira, any ordinary person. If I marry, I am going to marry a person who is a scholar himself. And that person should beat me in my debates. That was her condition for marriage. So what happened? So many scholars used to come to this Bhima Shukla's court, and they would all try to debate with this Princess Vasanti, and they would all get defeated because she was a very brilliant scholar, and she was well read in the Vedas and the Upanishads and all the literature and all the great works, and so nobody could beat her. So this Bhima Shukla was getting a little worried. What about who will give a groom, to my daughter? Then there was a very handsome scholar in the court called Vararuchi. He was young also, he was good looking also, and he was a scholar also. So the Bhima Shukla said, look, my dear daughter, it's very difficult to find somebody, suitable for you. So you please marry this Vararuchi. He's a very good boy. We know him so much. So you please marry him. But this princess was very arrogant. Okay. She said, no, I don't like Vararuchi and he is not smarter than me. I am not going to marry him. So this Vararuchi was extremely embarrassed and extremely angry. He said, I will teach this woman a lesson. Who does she think she is? The male ego was very is very fragile, isn't it? He got very angry. Then we come to the next part of the story. In that Kashi itself, there was a little cowherd, very innocent little boy. Not little, he was a young man, and he was a cowherd. Cowherd means Gopala. He was looking after his cows. That was his job. And he was so simple that he had no common sense also. Look at this picture. He's sitting on a branch of a tree and cutting the branch in a position where he is going to fall himself. That was the kind of intelligence this man had. Okay. And one day he was sitting like this and cutting a branch, and one of the villagers sees him and says, "Arey, don't cut like that. You're going to fall yourself, he said. So Kalidasa, his name was not yet Kalidasa, but we'll refer to him as Kalidasa because we don't know his original name, right? So Kalidasa said, "How do you know I'm going to fall?" He's challenging that man. How do you know? He doesn't even know that it's common sense. He's saying, "How do you know I'm going to fall?" So that man says, "My God, there cannot be a more stupid, bigger fool than this fellow," this man thinks. And he goes away. And sure enough, this Kalidasa goes on cutting the branch and he's going to fall only. No, he fell. And then after he fell, this boy understood, oh my God, that man was telling the truth. He must be a very great astrologer. So he ran behind that man and he called him and asked him, "Sir, how did you know? You're such a great scholar. You predicted that I would fall. Okay. So you tell me, you become my guru. I will do whatever you say," he said. So this man, he was also a very clever fellow. You know what he did? He went to all those scholars in the court of King Bhumi Pala, and he said, "You all wanted to teach this princess a good lesson. No, see, there is this man here. He's so stupid that he doesn't even know that he's going to fall if he cuts the branch. I have found the fellow for you. I will take him to you. I will bring him to you. You do what you want with him." So what they do, all these courtiers will go to this Kalidasa, who was not yet called Kalidasa, remember? They go to him and they tell him, "Look, we'll make you a prince. Okay, do you want to be a prince or no?" He says, the boy says, yes, I want to be a prince. And they dress him up in a nice clothes and they tell him, "Look, we are going to take you to the palace of the king, and you are going to marry the princess. But there is one condition. You should just keep quiet. You should not open your mouth. You should pretend that you are doing Mauna Vrat." You know what Mauna Vrat, no? You are not going to talk. So we will tell them you don't talk because you have a oath and you have taken Mauna Vrat, and so then we'll make sure that the princess marries you. This Kalidasa says, okay. But only one thing, they say, the moment you see the king, just say Om Swasti. That's it. And that's all you have to say. Nothing else. You should just shut up, okay? Don't talk. Om Swasti. Kalidasa says, okay. I will go to the thing. I want to marry the prince. So he says that. Then they go to the court and Kalidasa sees the king and he forgets what he's supposed to say to the king. He says, instead of Om Swasti, he says Ushtra or something like that. Ushtra means camel. Then the king gets really angry. He said, "Oh my God, this stranger is coming to my court in front of the king and he's calling me camel." He gets really wild. Then the courtiers, the scholars, they'll cover up. They said, no, he's a very great scholar. He didn't mean a camel. And they compose a poem from that, all the words in that Ushtra, U, Ta, Ra and all, and they will compose a hymn to the king. They say, this is what he meant, this is what he meant. He's taken Mauna Vrat. That's why he's not talking too much. So the king Bhumipala was very happy. Oh, finally a good scholar has come to my house. Let us see, maybe my daughter will like this fellow. So what happens? This princess will come and she will say, okay, I'll challenge this fellow. And now a debate begins between this Kalidasa, who was not yet Kalidasa, and then this Princess Vasanti. Now, it's a dumb charades, okay? Dumb charades, because the Kalidasa has taken Mauna Vrat. So the princess starts with she shows one finger like this, okay? And she says her meaning was, God is one. That's why she showed one finger. What this young man took it as, he said, oh, this woman wants to poke my eyes, one eyes, I'll poke two of her eyes. And he showed two fingers. And you know what, this princess, because she's a scholar, she understood it differently. She said, oh, I'm saying God is one, and this great scholar is telling me there is God and there is individual also, Jiva also. So it is two. That is what he is saying, she said. And so she's very happy. Then she continues with the this Damsharad's business. Then her next challenge is she shows five fingers. She will show five fingers. What is in her head? She thinks she's saying, she's indicating the five elements. But Kalidasa thinks this woman is going to hit me. So he says, if you are going to hit me, I am going to punch you. And he will show a fist. And because Vasanti is a scholar, again she will interpret it in her own way. She said, oh, all the five elements come together in the body, she says. Isn't it? Because our body is made of five elements, no? You all know the Panchabhutas, the body is made of earth, water, fire, space, and one more. Earth, water, fire, air and space, right? So that was the Panchabhutas. And this woman is very happy, Princess Vasanti is very happy, and those two are getting married now. This is a grand wedding in the palace. Kalidasa marries a princess. But the princess does not know that she has married a dumb guy, because the next day, what Kalidasa does? He says, I have to mind my cows, okay, I'm going. And he goes. He has to go. He has to mind his cows. That's his job. He's a cowherd. And when this princess comes to know, I have not married a scholar. I have married a very simpleton from this village. She gets wild. And she says, get out of my sight. She gets really angry with this boy, okay? And she said, with her husband, she said, she's infuriated, and she's ashamed to call him her husband. She said, get out of my sight and pray to Mother Kali. Hope you get some brains. Then what happens? Kalidasa understands that now he comes to terms with the fact that he's really dumb and he doesn't know anything. And he had a beautiful chance of being a prince and married to this princess, and he blew it because he was dumb. So he's very dejected, he's very sad, and so he goes away and he walks and walks and walks, and he comes to the banks of Ganga. There he sees women washing clothes on the bank of the river, and he notices that some rocks on the bank were smooth, where the washing was done. No, that part of the rock was smooth, and the other parts of the rock was rough. Then you know what, this Kalidasa, he thinks, if a rough rock can become smooth by constant pounding, so can a dull mind become sharp when pounded with knowledge. That was the first beautiful thought this simple villager got in his head when he saw these women washing clothes. If a rock can become smooth, even a dullhead like me can become intelligent with knowledge. That is what he said. And so what he did, like his wife had suggested, he prayed and prayed and prayed to Mother Kali. Very, very sincerely he prayed to the Mother Kali. And because he was an innocent villager, no? So the the God listens to the prayers of innocent people. He was innocent like a child. So the Mother Kali blessed him, and it is said that she wrote on his tongue, wrote the letter Om, the symbol Om on Kalidasa's tongue. From then, that instant, Kalidasa was enlightened. He became scholarly at one shot because God blessed him. He became totally scholarly. The scales fell from his eyes, and he became a completely enlightened scholar. Then what does he do? He goes home. He has to tell his wife, no, that thanks to you, madam, I prayed to Mother and I became an intelligent person. So he comes back home, and the first thing the the wife says is she can't, she's still in that mood that he's a dumb fellow, and very sarcastically she says, asti kaschit vag visheshaha, is there anything particularly intelligent you have now to say to me now? You have always been dumb, saying stupid things, calling my father Ushtra and camel and all that. So is there anything particularly intelligent you have come to say to me? Why have you come back? So with this, she taunted him. The wife of Kalidasa taunted him, no? So he, because of this taunt, this asti kaschit vag vishesha, these three words stuck in Kalidasa's head. And later in life, Kalidasa composed three works with starting from asti, he composed a poem called Kumara Sambhava. Starting from Kaschit, he composed a thing called Meghaduta, and Vag, from Vag he composed, starting from Vag, the huge poem called Raghuvamsha. Okay, but that we'll come to that later. Right now, what happened was, when the wife taunted him like this, Kalidasa said, look, I cannot accept you as my wife because you are my guru. Because of your direction, he was not angry with his wife. Look at that. He's such an innocent person, right? He said, I am not angry with you. You are my guru because you told me to go and pray to Mother Kali. And because of your direction, I have become like this now. My life has got a meaning because of this. Again, what happened? The princess was extremely angry all over again. See, again she is angry. Look at her. She said, go. You are useless to me. You were useless to me before. You are useless to me now. Just go, get out of my sight, and may you meet your end at the hands of a woman. See, in English, there's a saying which says, there's nothing more dangerous than a woman scorned. They say, no, you don't make a woman unhappy. But it's very difficult. I mean, and she was very unreasonable, if you ask me, right? So anyway, what to do? She was like that. She was an arrogant person, and she cursed poor little Kalidasa, saying that you go and your end you will meet at the hands of a woman. Next, let us see what happens. So Kalidasa with the blessing. Now he's Kalidasa. Kali means the Mother Kali. Dasa means servant, right? So he calls himself now, because of the blessings of Kali, he became a scholar, right? So he calls himself Kalidasa. And with her blessing, Kali's blessing, he composes all these beautiful plays. Mahakavya means epics. Two big epics called Kumara Sambhava and Raghuvamsha. Kumara Sambhava, quickly, Kumara Sambhava is about the birth of Kartikeya. Who is Kartikeya? Kartikeya is the son of Shiva and Parvati. And why was Kartikeya born? Kartikeya was born to vanquish Tarakasura. He was a demon who was threatening to drown all the worlds, So that is about Kumara Sambhava. It's a beautiful long, it's an epic. Epic, you know what an epic is? Like Ramayana is an epic, Mahabharata is epic, and this Kumara Sambhava is also a epic. And the another Mahakavya. Maha means big, Kavya means work of literature. So Kumara Sambhava, and the second one is Raghuvamsha. Raghuvamsha is the story of Ramayana and the ancestors of Rama. Dilipa, Raghu, Aja, Dasharatha. Then Rama, and then his children, Rava and Kusha. This is about Raghuvamsha. That's also called a Mahakavya. It's a huge, voluminous work. And there are two Khanda Kavyas. Khanda Kavya means smaller works, smaller Kavyas. One is Meghaduta, which is about, it's a romantic story between, two people who are in love with each other, and how a cloud becomes a messenger between them. It's a very beautiful lyrical poem. And then Ritu Samhara. Ritu Samhara is about all the 4 seasons. He described the 4 seasons. And then he has composed 3 Natakas. Natakas is plays. Malavika Agnimitra. Again, it's a romance between Malavika and Agnimitra, a king and queen. And Vikram Orvashiya is again a romance between Vikrama, a prince called Vikrama. No, Vikrama is Pururavas, and Urvashi is the celestial maiden Urvashi. And then Amignana Shakuntala. That's also a very, very famous romantic story between Shakuntala and Dushyanta. So Kalidasa basically was known for his beautiful expressions. He was known for his beautiful expressions. In fact, he was known as fellow who was great with similes. You know what a simile is, no? As red as a rose, as beautiful as a rose, or as light as feather. That's a simile, no? So this Upama Kalidasasya, they used to say Upama means simile. Simile means Kalidasa is the person to go for similes. That was the kind of poetry he wrote. Next, you know what happened? Again, the story continues. There is one thing which says that Kalidasa was in the court of Bhoja Raja. Bhoja Raja. See, again, there are many Bhojas who are recorded in in history, but this Bhoja was of the Paramara dynasty. It is said, this particular Bhoja, and his kingdom was Dhara in Madhya Pradesh. So this Bhoja Raja was also a very he was a patron of art and culture, and in his court, so many scholars and poets and literature people, they were all given patronage under this Raja. And this Bhoja Raja had a peculiar desire. He had read all the works of Kalidasa, no? And he said, this man is composing, beautiful stories about all those kings, Agnimitra and Pururavas and, Vikrama and all that. Why can't he compose something about me? I have given him shelter and he has to talk about me, no? So he tells Kalidasa, look, I want to hear what you are going to say when I die. That is called a Charama Shloka in Sanskrit. Charama Shloka means what the eulogy one gives when one is the world tell. It's an obituary that you receive after you're dead. Look, how can anybody can receive an obituary when one is alive? It's not possible, no. But this Bhoja Raja is he wants to listen. So Charama Shloka means, Charama means the final or the ultimate or the climax of anything. So when somebody is dead, that's the climax for that person who was living. So the Charama Shloka is recited when somebody is dead. So Kalidasa refuses point blank. He says, no, impossible. I am not going to recite the Charama Shloka. The moment it comes out of my mouth, you will die. So I am not going to recite the Charama Shloka. But Bhoja Raja is very adamant. And one day he tricks Kalidasa. The Bhoja Raja disguises himself as somebody else and goes to Kalidasa and says, your king is dead. So the moment Kalidasa hears that Bhoja Raja is dead, he is devastated. He is so upset. So immediately that shloka comes out of him, which is very, very famous. Okay. And he says, Adya dhara, niradhara, niralamba saraswati, panditaha, khanditaha sarve, bhoja raje divangate. This is Sanskrit. In what it means is, today, dhara is the kingdom, is without support. The goddess of learning Saraswati is also without support, and all the scholars are overwhelmed with grief with the departure of Bhoja Raja to heaven. That is what the Charma Shloka of Bhoja Raja came out from the mouth of Kalidasa. The moment he heard this, Bhoja Raja was thrilled. Oh my God, this great scholar holds me in such great esteem, he thought. And like Kalidasa had said, Bhoja Raja falls dead also immediately, because that was the Charama Shloka, it was an obituary. And because Kalidasa was such a pure-hearted fellow, the moment he said, Bhoja Raja had to die. Then the moment Kalidasa comes to know that it was indeed the king who had disguised himself, he's also devastated. So what he does is, he prays to his goddess Kali and says, Mother, please do something and please bring my Raja back to life. And then he recites the same shloka with a different meaning, with the completely opposite meaning. He says, Adya dhara, sadadhara, sadalamba saraswati, panditaha, manditaha sarve, bhojaraje, bhuvangate. See, niradhara becomes sadadhara. Today, dhara is ever supported. Sadalamba, that is, the goddess of Saraswati, is ever supported. And panditaha, manditaha sarve, all the scholars are rejoicing, not overwhelmed with grief. Khandita was they were grieving. Manditaha is they were rejoicing. And Bhojaraje Bhuvangate. Divangata is gone to heaven. Bhuvangate means he is on earth. So the completely the same, rhythmic rhyming words he uses to give the completely different meaning to what he said. And listening to this, even goddess Kali is impressed. She is also impressed. She said, "Oh my God, what a great scholar he is!" And she blesses Kalidasa and brings Bhoja Raja back to life. This is the legend. But the most important thing here is the beauty of Kalidasa's poetry. How he was able to play with words and use the same words with the same rhythm to mean a completely opposite thing. Okay. So then to quickly come to the next part of the story, this Kalidasa says that, okay, this guy Bhojaraja is going to eat my head. I don't want to, do such things again. I'm dangerous. I'll kill him and all. So he goes off and hides in the house of a courtesan. A courtesan is a court dancer. And then there was another poet called Dindima, poet called Dindima. He says he comes to the palace of Bhojaraja wanting to find out what happened to Kalidasa. Where is he? He wanted to meet the great Kalidasa. But he goes there and sees that Kalidasa is not there. He has gone away. So the scholar Dindima comes up with a nice plan. He composes half a verse, okay? And he says, anybody who completes this verse, this Bhoja, he challenges Bhoja Raja. Is there a scholar in your court who can complete this verse? If not, half your kingdom should come to me, he says. Scholar Dindima says and goes. And the word says, and the verse was, Kamale kamalotpattihi shuyate natu drishyate. The Sanskrit could be difficult, so it is in English. It is said that a lotus blooms within another lotus, but it is not seen. This is the one line that Dindima gives. Okay. How can a lotus bloom within another lotus? It is stupid, no? So it is called a conundrum. How do you solve this riddle? So Dindima knew that if anybody could solve it, only Kalidasa could solve this riddle and give a proper fitting answer to it. So what happens? The court dancer, she takes the riddle and goes home. And she shows this riddle to Kalidasa. And Kalidasa immediately, promptly, he gives a reply. He says, Bale tava mukhamboje katham indivaradvayam? Fair maiden, how come there are two lotuses in your lotus face? See, the challenge was, how can a lotus bloom within a lotus? And Kalidasa says, your face is a lotus, and in your lotus face there are two lotuses, which are your eyes. So that is why he was called a master of similes. Kalidasa, it was a beautiful thing. So the moment this girl, this court dancer, she comes to know that this is the correct answer, she kills Kalidasa and she takes she goes to the king and says, I have completed the riddle. So all that happens, but the main thing is Kalidasa meets his end at the hands of a woman, like the wife had said, isn't it? So this is, so let us quickly say what was the impact of Kalidasa in life. So he influenced and inspired many writers through the ages. So all these are legends about Kalidasa, which is fun to hear. But the main thing is his body of work, which was fantastic. And he influenced poets like Rabindranath Tagore also to write poems. Okay. And then there was a person called Sir William Jones, who was in India in the mid 18th century. And he translated Abhignana Shakuntala, which is one of the plays of Kalidasa, into English. So when this was translated into English, it went out of India and went it across the world. It went all over the world. Kalidasa's name became famous, and along with his, that particular play, all of his works became very famous. And all these have been staged and produced as feature films in several languages. From 2000 years ago also, it has been going on. And then there's a Kalidasa statue in Ujjain. Ujjain is where the Bhoja Raja lived. And the government of India has instituted several awards to respect and recognize the contribution of Kalidasa to India and the language of Sanskrit. Okay. And in Uttarakhand, which is, this is the place where Uttarakhand is, northeast, there is actually a place called Kavilta village. And this is supposed to be Kalidasa's birthplace. And there's an auditorium in his memory there. And there's annual sessions happened. And there's a Kalimat temple where he's supposed to have gone and prayed and got his enlightenment and all that. So these are all... we don't know how true this is, but it is there in recognition of Kalidasa. Then quickly about his first play, Mahakavi Agnimitra. See, there are certain things about Kalidasa which you have to say. Like you cannot talk about Harry Potter without talking of J.K. Rowling. Or you can't talk of J.K. Rowling without talking of Harry Potter. Like that, without talking of this particular shloka, you can't talk of Kalidasa. It says in the play of Mahakavi Agnimitra, it was his very first play, and there were many wonderful scholars before him, and Kalidasa was worried that he was a new fellow and his work would not be accepted. So he started his play with this word. He says, Purana mityeva na sadhu sarvam. Everything that's old need not be good. Na chapi kavyam nava mit avadyam. Something new need not necessarily be bad. You know what he's saying? Okay, I know that there are great things, great playwrights, before me, but just because I'm new, don't dismiss me like that, he's saying. And Santaha parikshanantaram bhajante. What will Santaha do? Santaha means wise people and good people. What will they do? They will examine the new work and then they will decide whether it is something is good or bad. Moodaha paripratyayena buddhihi. And what will the fools do? They'll blindly do what the others say. So by this opening shloka, he made sure that people don't want to be called fools. No. So they are forced to see his play and rate it on the merit and not because he's a new playwright. So that was the intelligence of Kalidasa, right? And also there's the one more shloka which is very beautiful. In Raghuvamsha, he says, Vagarthaviva samproktau, Vagarthaviva pratipattaye, Jagatah pitaro vande Parvati Parameshwarau. I salute Parvati and Parameshwara, the parents of the world, who are united like the word and its meaning. See, what a beautiful expression is that, no? He's comparing Parvati and Parameshwara, that is Shiva and Parvati, to the word and its meaning. Can a word and its meaning be separated? Never. Never can you separate the word with its meaning. That is how Parvati and Parameshwara are one. He's saying that there is only one energy. Just two names, Parvati and Parameshwara. They cannot be separated. That was the beauty of the language and the depth of his, the depth he conveyed through his shlokas. And he says, I pray for the gift of speech fit with appropriate meaning. He prayed Parvati and Parameshwara for the gift of speech which he had. So that is some of the great things about Kalidasa. So what do we learn from Kalidasa's story? Our talents are a gift from God, right? Kalidasa was blessed by Kalima, and that is how he became a scholar. So directly it's a gift from God or nature or whatever it is from the higher source. All our talents are gift from God, and so we do not take it for granted. We do not take the gift of God for granted. And God rewards hard work. See, even though Kalidasa, he was not born, intelligent, right? And he had to work hard for that. So there are two things about how we have to go about getting our goals. One is called Purusha Prayatna, which is our effort. When we put in our efforts, Daiva Krupa, God will bless us with grace. So without it, you have to put in your effort. Just because you're talented, you can't sit and do things. You have to put in your effort. Only then God will give the grace. Arrogance lead to downfall. We know how Princess Vararuchi was arrogant and she lost a great man. And also Raja Bhoja, no, he was so adamant and he drove Kalidasa away from his life, right? And then poet Dindima, he was the only fellow who recognized. He was also a great scholar, so he respected greatness. So when you are at a level, only greatness can recognize greatness. and be careful of the company you keep. Kalidasa went to a court dancer's house and he met his end in a very bad, ignominious manner. And literature, the importance of literature is brought out from this story. It is the carrier of civilization because of books. Have you heard of the term armchair traveling? Because we can read books, we can sit in our own houses and we can go all over the world. We can go all over the universe also. Literature is, and you can learn about the history, how people lived before. Suppose there were no books, suppose there were no records, suppose nobody wrote about these things, how would we know? We'll be ignorant of what happened before us, no? So books are a living memory of a nation, it is said. And not last but not the least, the value of innovation. Purana mityeva nasadu sarvam. Just because something is old, it's not always good. So all of us need to reinvent ourselves periodically. We should not be afraid to innovate. We should not be afraid to experiment. That is what Kalidasa has taught us. Even DVG, the great poet DVG of Kannada, he said, ಹೊಸ ಚಿಗುರು ಹಳೆ ಬೇರು ಕೂಡಿರಲು ಮರ ಸೊಬಗು. ಹೊಸ ಚಿಗುರು, they should be new sprouts and the roots should be old. All your innovation should be rooted in good sense and rooted in wisdom of the experience of the elders, but still it should be fresh. Our ideas should fresh ideas. They are the oxygen of society. Without innovation we can't go anywhere. That is the lesson we learn from Kalidasa. So it's already 9 o'clock and I wanted to talk about how the Sanskrit is a beautiful language and all of us need to pay attention and please learn Sanskrit because it is the language of the gods. And each expression in Sanskrit is a complete sentence by itself. Each expression, each word in Sanskrit is an experience. It's an experience. More about that later because we are running out of time. I'm sure Prabhuji he will tell us how important it is to learn Sanskrit and see what Gandhiji has said. Without the study of Sanskrit, one cannot become a true Indian or a true learned man. That is so important, Sanskrit. So if you have a choice, children, next to choose a language to study, please take Sanskrit. You can always learn French later. Learn Sanskrit. Help us and at least learn all. Your mother tongue is also Sanskrit. It is also come from Sanskrit. So you have to be proficient in your own mother tongue. All the mother tongues, all the languages of India have their basis in Sanskrit. So it's very important. I know English has become a very easy language to communicate in these days, but you have to learn Sanskrit or at least your mother tongue, master it so that your brain will get activated. That is what God has promised. Okay, so this is the story of Kalidasa. Hari Om and thank you. And I don't know if there is time for question and answer. Anything?
So Purnimaji, let us have a prayer, and after prayer, let us have a question answer.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Children, let us have prayer. Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Children, hope you enjoyed the Mahakavi